This element number 10, this kind of takes my mind back to the Mamba mentality again, because Kobe, man, as I said to you earlier, his North Star was studying the greats. And that is element number 10, studying the greats. And so let's go back to the biography. It tells us this, because this is the kind of origin behind where all this started. When he was in Italy, to keep him occupied, his grandparents would send videotapes of TV shows and sporting events. Actually, one of the TV shows was The Cosby Show. Me and my family grew up watching that. But Kobe admitted, what I looked forward to most was getting the basketball games. I used to watch everybody, from Magic to Bird to Michael. I used to watch their moves and then add them to my game. From a very young age, I was devouring film and watching everything I could get my hands on. It was always fun to me, Kobe said. One of the elements that I really enjoy with Kobe is that he's a manic obsessive. I mean, I am as well. When I'm studying something, you know, especially these champions, trying to find what I think of as the most important elements in their life, I will go and look everywhere. And so what was fascinating for Kobe, the way he would study the greats, is that he would just watch hours and hours of footage. And I just think that this is one of the best ways, I think, to develop and improve your game. And what I always think, you know, if you think your competition might be watching 2 hours, go and watch 20 hours, go watch 100 hours, become far more obsessed than they're even thinking about. Because, you know, ultimately the pictures that we carry in our mind, they basically end up becoming our lives. And so this is a really worthwhile activity, studying game tape. Actually, I think it really is one of the quickest ways to improvement. And so the biography went on to describe, soon his dad Joe was subscribing to a service that delivered videos of the games directly. Joe and Kobe, this bit's good. Joe and Kobe would pore over them together, taking notes of all the key subtleties. And then these are my words, but basically from there, Kobe would head out onto the driveway, onto his hoop, and he would practice those moves, trying to perfect everything he was learning. It's a beautiful process. And then it also said an important line in the biography, you know, because Kobe was like a decade ahead of some of the other kids. And so it said, the only other players, bear in mind he's talking about the NBA, the only other players that were studying game tape like this were the X's and the O's, the wonks it called them, who served as the assistant coaches for the NBA teams. So, you know, players weren't really studying game tape. And so Kobe was like an innovator. I mean, this is how he would gain an advantage over his competition. And it actually said by age 9, he put together his first scouting tape, which I just think is so good. So now in this bit, you know, studying the greats, obviously we've mentioned Michael Jordan so many times in this episode. And I want to talk a little bit about how Jordan would come into Kobe's life, onto his radar, because his first idol was Magic Johnson, but actually that was his father's favorite player. But soon enough, Jordan would come into the frame and Kobe would start to get locked in on him. So this paragraph tells us, that summer in 1984, before they departed for Italy, so remember he's only 5 or 6 years old, Kobe watched on TV the US Olympic team getting ready for the games in Los Angeles. The preparation was a series of games against pro players. And so this was the first time that Kobe ever got to witness Michael Jordan. This bit's exciting, I think. I can almost see Kobe on the couch. Kobe said, this guy dribbles on a fast break and he took off. I think it was over Magic. And he flew past Magic. That's not supposed to happen, Kobe said. Who is this kid? I don't like this kid because Magic was my guy. And so Kobe said that was the first time that I saw him, meaning MJ. And so it goes on to say, this was one of my favorite lines in the entire book. Kobe had a closet at home filled with critical research. It held all the VHS tapes of Michael's games. He'd pull them out and study them and then do the moves. Look at what I added, Bryant would tell his coach. He was studying even harder for that role, it said. Obviously the role as the next Michael Jordan. And so, by the way, I love that term, critical research. And as I said, Kobe was studying all of these players. But what I think Phil Jackson helped him to do almost better than anybody else, to teach him a way to strategically look at the game. And so Kobe went from his obsession of studying other players suddenly to studying his own performance and his own games. And this is a great bit from Grover. So Grover said, sometimes after the game, especially after a loss, Kobe obtained the game film and we'd watch it together. Every moment, every frame. Sometimes we'd be in the car heading to a late dinner, but we'd never end up getting there. We'd just sit in the car analysing what went right and what went wrong. That's how you manage a loss. You tear it apart until it loses its power to happen again. I actually love that. I love that idea that if you've lost, go tear it apart. Really understand why from a strategic point, from a mentality, from a physical aspect. Break it down. Use it as a positive thing in your life rather than it haunting you forever. And so I just think one of the things that I loved about the relationship between Grover and Kobe was obsessed, but Grover backed up that obsession. When you work with top athletes, I've been around a lot of top athletes, you have to be on their schedule. You might be hungrier than you've ever been, but if they're not hungry, you don't eat. And it's something you just got to live with if you want to be around the best. I hope that makes sense. Now, something else that I put here that speaks to these 10 elements that we've been talking about is, think about this. Kobe wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the best three-point shooter. What he did do incredibly well was he was always looking for these incremental improvements. And that is what game film, studying the greats, gave him. He got the edge from this element. And yes, he had to go and practice these things, but he was always working on things that worked at the top level. It wasn't just practice for practice sake. It was working on these specific things. And actually, if we go back to the young friend in Italy, and this is what he said about 10-year-old Kobe, he never stopped working at his game. If he wasn't playing the game, he was watching videotapes. Man, I hope you end this episode and get more obsessed about what it is that you love, maybe than you've ever been before. And so to build on this, there was this story that talks about how Kobe was using this obsession, using what he's learning. And so it told this story in the book. It said, we were barking at Kobe one day in a practice scrimmage to front the post. And Kobe said, that's not what I'm going to be doing in the NBA. So he's just in high school right now. That's not what I'm going to be doing in the NBA. And so his teammates barked back at him, well, this isn't the NBA. This isn't the NBA. But what I love about this, I just wrote down here this little saying. Everybody else was playing checkers and Kobe was playing chess. He had seen and watched exactly what the best players in the world were doing. And so he didn't want to practice something that he wouldn't be using in the NBA. And I just love it. And it's summed up in this short line in the biography. It says, when you're breaking down game tape of Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and many of the other greats, you come to consider them as your teacher. I mean, that's such a great insight. Kobe eventually, when he got in the NBA, would start to build relationships with these ex-players, people that could teach him, better defense, better shooting, whatever element it was. But his study started long before he had relationships with these people. So figure out who you really want to study and then go deep down the rabbit hole. What I'll also say, that is why when you listen to episodes like this, my aim is this is a masterclass on these champions. This isn't sort of admiring them from afar. This is getting in the weeds, in the dirt, and learning exactly what made them great. And yes, you might listen to this for entertainment, but I really hope there's lots of you out there that are listening to this because you want to improve your performance. I feel like this can be a cheat code.